Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your patience. We will proceed with this evening's main agenda. A couple of notes that I'd like to get on the record. First of all, Councillor Jonker, Councillor Riley will be absent from this evening's meeting. All public in attendance were requested to sign in the attendance sheet. Please make sure that your cell phones are off, and this meeting will be audio and video recorded. At this time, I'd like us to all stand for the singing of O Canada, followed by an opening petition by Councillor Ryan. O Canada, our home and native land, true hatred, love, in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
We gather to make decisions for our community. May we use only our best skills and judgment as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens.
Thank you, Councillor. At this time, I am going to ask, are there any changes in order of items on the agenda? Seeing none. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary and/or conflict of interest? There are two noted. I'm going to read them out at this time. That Councillor Trombetta has declared at the commencement of confidential matters as it relates to confidential item 2A. Councillor Trombetta noted that the following disclosure of pecuniary interest and/or conflict of interest that was made at the July 15 council meeting, for which is being considered this evening. Councillor Rayner has one on the July 15 council minutes, other business, section B, planning, building, environmental, item D, recommendation report, PD 116-19 Sicard holiday campers, application for rezoning, file number 162418. Councillor Mike Rayner advised that he had a conflict of interest with respect to Sicard holiday campers, application for rezoning, as he had financial business with the Sicard family, specifically Mrs. Sicard. Councillor Rayner did not take part in the discussions nor voting with respect to this matter, and provided a written declaration in this regard. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest with respect to open sessions items? Councillor Trombetta?
Mr. Mayor, the bylaw, item number
77?
yeah,
Yep.
that one,
I'm going to read that now.
and the report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, recommendation report PD-89-19 Sandra Gibson, application for rezoning 160102-19 bylaw 2019-77, being a bylaw for the zoning bylaw amendment in the name of Sandra Gibson. Councillor Trombetta declared a pecuniary interest or conflict of interest with respect to item 14, being planning staff's recommendation report pertaining to Ms. Sandra Gibson rezoning application, as well as bylaw 2019-77, as he lives in proximity to the proposed cannabis production facility, which he noted may affect his judgment with respect to the application. Councillor Trombetta provided a written declaration of his conflict in this regard and did not take part in discussion or voting with respect to the matter. Any others?
That was the only reason, Mr. Mayor.
Seeing none, are there any members of the public who wish to address a specific item on the agenda as permitted by section 6.7 of the procedural bylaw? Come forward. Alexa, you have to give up your seat again. Sure, perfect. I think they had this arranged. Just state one more time for clarity your name.
Okay. Angela Bonamici, IBI Group. Okay. I'm here on behalf of the client and owner of Sunset Acres, which is 2942 and 2946 Grimsby Road. Just want to revisit from our public meeting. There have been a bit more information brought forward, and some conflicts and issues have been resolved. So I'd like to just touch upon those before we have the vote. So as you remember, this is our subject lands. They have a frontage of approximately 92 meters along Grimsby Road, and the size of the site is 4.57 hectares, which comprised of the whole condo development makes up 3.48 hectares, and the existing residential remainder will make 1.09 hectares in land. As you can see, our subject property is home to an existing residence and Boscher's Auto Service, and then an underutilized agricultural field. To date, we have submitted the draft plan of vacant land condominium and zoning bylaw, which is before you tonight. We also submitted a severance for a land consolidation. Previously, there was that little strip of land that the owner wanted to remove from their auto shop and move to their residential land. That went to the Committee of Adjustment on July 31st and was approved. It is still going through its appeal period right now. And we are looking to submit our future site plan application, hopefully in the next week or so. Obviously, hopefully with the outcome, positive outcome from tonight. So with our application, we provided supporting studies, and I just want to refresh everyone that our geotechnical report did show that this land can support the new residential buildings. Our noise study was completed, and there was no noise concerns. We did do a stormwater management brief, which has been, we haven't revised the brief, but we have looked at it alternatively and working with the neighbors to find a solution to help everyone out, because there was a current or an existing drainage problem in that area. Our hydrogeological report confirmed that the site can support 4 1.5 acre lots. And our sensitive land use study looked at Alden equipment, Erie powder coatings, the chicken barn beside the property, and even Boscher's Auto, and came back saying that under the ECA, Erie powder coating still has an approval. So if they keep running the way they are in compliance, as well as Boscher's Auto. Everything is enclosed within the building, so there's no outdoor noise source or any obnoxious uses that would impact the new residential. And our planning justification report wrapped this all up and provided an overview of each of the reports. Once again, this is not the slide, but this was our draft plan of vacant land condominium, which was provided in Brian's report. So, I hope you all saw that. Here's our site plan concept, which will consist of, so before you tonight, we do have a ZBA, our zoning bylaw amendment, which is only looking to legalize the accessory structures on the existing residential lot down here, and as well find relief for the lot frontage for the remaining, since that will be excluded from the draft plan of condo. And we will also be modifying the side yard for this lot, because it will have a 0 lot line against the existing commercial parking lot. At the last meeting, we did discuss planning issues, that being of traffic, compatibility, and drainage. Through the traffic, we discussed that it is a regional road, which is marked at 60 kilometers per hour. It can support the capacity of 4 residential lots, and the region nor the town asked for any traffic reports to confirm that. Compatibility, we did do the sensitive land use study, which confirmed that there is no negative impact if we did put 4 new residential lots on the property. as well. It is our intent to keep the houses in character with what is already along Grimsby Road. We don't want any monster homes, and obviously we can't really build that for the septic system that has to go on. There are restrictions. We can't just build these massive houses and expect that land to support it. So from that perspective, our biggest issue was the drainage issue. And I know residents came forward saying there was already existing issues, and even Mr. Boscher's land had some existing drainage issue. We did, through talking through the neighbors, our client found out that a house 2 doors down inadvertently closed off a regulated water course for drainage, and that was what seems to be was causing the blockage throughout our client's property and the houses directly to the east of him. Through consultation with them and our engineers, we looked at it and we came up with a drainage solution, which we think, we stand behind, and the town has looked at it and they are good with it. Let me just explain how it works. Currently, the property is split into 3 different drainage routes. As you can see, the first one representing the green, everything south of the driveway is going towards the southwest corner to an existing water course and out to Regional Road 20. The front yards of which are highlighted in blue, and the private driveway itself will continue to go down to the road and out to Grimsby Road, which is as it's currently going. And then the red portion will be directed to this existing culvert and enter into the neighbor's pond, which then will go through the NPCA water course and out to Regional Road 20. So the site drainage is currently split, and through our design, it will remain split. The same areas that are draining to where they're draining to now will continue with our proposal. We are installing berms, which will be located at the rear, and if you can look at the mouse, it'll go basically up to here on this side, and then over here, and then down the side lane. This is to stop and direct the water directly to this culvert to go into the pond, so that it won't go into any of these rear yards that for these homes that front on Grimsby Road. There is no increase in the volumes that are going to be added with this new development. So I am told they are very minuscule, that it is, our engineer is confident to say that there is no volume increase. So we feel this is an excellent site for your approval tonight because it's within the settlement area. It's similar built form. It's a complementary use to the commercial use, complies with the official plan, and is consistent with the provincial policies. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them regarding probably drainage. Thanks.
Any comments or questions? Thank you very much for your presentation. Any comments? Seeing none?
Oh.
Yes, go ahead.
One more thing. I forgot about this. I do have copies for you. We spoke to the neighbor to the north where the water is directed, because there's a little portion that is not regulated. So we do have a letter signed by that neighbor stating that he is fine with the water going in there and actually prefers it going through there because they want to maintain their pond. And obviously with water continuing to flow through it, this is how it will be maintained. So I'll give this to Brian and he can hand it out to you. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Yep, good, thank you. Seeing none, thank you very much. Any other members of the public wishing to address an item on the agenda? Seeing none, we have 2 appointments this evening. Our first presenter this evening is AJ Bardwai of, I hope I pronounced that right, Ymca board member, Kathleen White, Vice President, Health, Fitness and Aquatics, Sally Jane Southern Grice, Central Branch Manager, Niagara West Ymca. A look back, year 7 highlights, community feedback programs and improvements. If you'd like to take your turns in the hot seat, yes.
Good evening. So, Mr. Mayor, councillors, staff, and the public, my name is AJ and I am a volunteer board member for the YMCA of Niagara. You did very well with my last name, and as you noticed, I didn't pronounce your last name to start us off. I do believe we have a presentation, if we could pull it up, and I have a supporting cast here. As you know, Kathy Ann is our Vice President of Health, Fitness, and Aquatics, and Sally is our Center Manager at the Niagara West YMCA.
I don't either.
So I believe it was a few months ago, we had an invitation by the council to present a retrospective on the Niagara West YMCA, and I was very happy to be asked to do that. So we'll do our best in 10 minutes that was allotted to sort of go over those highlights. It is an organization of stories, and I apologize that my back is turned here. But we'll go through some of the numbers and some of the impacts that we have in our community, and we're very proud of that. So it's hard to believe in 2011, it's not that long ago, that the Niagara West YMCA was opened. And the sign of a very successful venture, community venture, is the fact that we had 1,100 members who had already registered before opening day to become members of the YMCA for Niagara West. Now the YMCA is very grateful. We can't do these sorts of things alone as we build strong communities for the support of our capital campaign, which included federal, provincial, and municipal funds. We had over 400 individual donors and a capital campaign that raised $2.2 million. And our capital campaign chair was Norm Beal, who many of you know. And of course, we're very grateful for the Township of West Lincoln, who pledged a support of $420,000 to be paid over in equal installments over several years. So that's about $52,500 each year from 2015 to 2023. So here are some of the numbers, and like I said, we're an organization of stories and we have impact on our community. But one of the things we're very proud of course, is the leadership and development of more than 120 staff. I speak very personally to this because there was a time when I was a staff, maybe over 20, 22 years ago, when that's how I started my career at the Y, and later on in life decided to give back as a board member, as a volunteer. We have 650 volunteer hours provided by more than 40 volunteers at that particular branch, at that center. And we serve an average of about 5,500 members throughout the year. If we're looking ahead to next year, we're looking at over 6,000 members who will be participating in Y programs at that center. We engage 825 children and youth in swim lessons, strengthening their skills. And if you look at my 5 and my 7-year-olds, it also strengthens their confidence. And they have a lot more fun than I do in the pool, I can tell you that. We partner with a lot of community organizations, and in terms of children and youth, we have 55 camper days that we provide programming, and that results in 917 camper weeks in West Niagara alone. So that's quite an impact. And for those who are between the ages of 10 and 14, we have about 238 visits from them in a safe, positive, unplugged programming at our Y. We also have the local elementary schools that participate in our programs, including our Swim to Survive program. We've had 77 individuals trained in Bronze Star, Medallion, and Cross, 29 individuals trained in Standard First Aid, 11 Aquafit classes, which is fun if you've not done it. I've done it. It's a lot of fun. And 45 group fitness classes offered for all ages and abilities for the week. We have over 40 hours of open swim and family swim time for members in the community per week. So basically every day we have open swim available for the community. And the one number I don't want to miss or glance over is the importance of the financial assistance that, as a charity, we're very proud of supporting. So 572 local children, adults, and families are supported at our YMCA every year. Now, I'm going to need we do invest a lot in updating our equipment. I might need a little help in what this equipment is because I'm a little scared of it, to be honest with you. But it is one of many of our investments in our equipment to update and keep members of the public engaged with health fitness. I'm hoping one day we'll have a board meeting at the Y where we have 8 people around this paraphernalia and actually have a workout and a meeting. But it really is an example of the many investments that we make to keep our equipment up to date, safe, and current for our members and our users. I have a couple places of water here. Oh, thank you so much. So again, we do have a significant impact, positive impact in the Niagara West community. We have thousands of participants, including school groups, community programs, recreational swims, lane swims, leadership programs, babysitting, and home alone courses as well. How are we doing? Is there any water? I appreciate it, though. When we look at our involvement, it's not just at our centers and not in our programs. We really do appreciate community outreach. So you might have seen us last year with our red toques at the Grimsby Santa Claus Parade. We had a very successful coat drive. Thank you. Oh, that's wonderful. Community Care of West Lincoln. And our Christmas gift collection was very important to us for Jillian's Place. And of course, on Family Day, every Family Day, we have a YMCA Healthy Kids Day. And if you know, in the middle of February, if you've got young children that need to burn off some energy, go down to the YMCA, get outside, and then go to the Y. It's really helpful. We are always investing and listening to the community to make improvements in our programs. We are launching new adult programs such as Barre, expanding our offerings in yoga, aqua fitness, small group training. There really has been a demand and a need for personal training in small groups, so we've responded to that. We revised our approach to new member orientation so that you're not just signing up, you get a welcome, you meet other new members, and so you already have a real good community feel. So when you walk into a center, you already are familiar with the people that are there with you. We've implemented new national aquatic standards, and we've also enhanced child protection standards, which really are a shining example at the YMCA in terms of child protection and safety. And we're also introducing more skill-based sports programs for children. With the remaining time that I have, I really want to focus on something that's really dear to us as a charity. We are a charity as the YMCA, and we do provide financial assistance. At the Niagara West YMCA in particular, 11%, so of those 5,500 to 6,000 members, 11% of them receive some sort of financial assistance to access programs. So for us, that's really important. I think we actually all believe we can do a lot better than 11% because we feel that there shouldn't be any barriers to access programs for healthy living and for building strong communities. So we are proud of that 11%, but I think we can do better. In terms of looking ahead into the future, summary and next steps, we're continuing to focus on improving health, fitness, and aquatic programs and services, as well as expanding family programming. Always focusing on membership retention and growth, and that really involves a lot of community engagement. And we're always open to hear from the community what they would like to see in their Y. We're really focused on, especially when I look at Kathy Ann and Sally here, successful operations is incredibly important, service delivery, and financial sustainability. And we are truly grateful that we have partners in our community, such as the Township of West Lincoln, that gives us the opportunity to serve their citizens. It goes without saying, if there's any time you wanted to visit and have a tour of the Y, I'm available. And anybody in the public, you should come on down and check it out, a lot of our programs. With that, I thank you for your time, and if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Thanks, sir. Are there any questions from council? Seeing none, you answered them all. Thank you very much for the presentation. We're very pleased to have you here and give that presentation. It's fantastic.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so before, yes, sir?
I have to apologize because I was waiting for an item to come up on the agenda and I didn't realize that you had to make any comments.
Yes.
Part of the
And so at this time, I'm just going to back up. Before we get to the second appointment and presentation, we're just going to ask if you'd like to come forward and just make your comments on the item in the agenda. Yeah, okay.
Apologize for that.
No problem. State your name for the record and then...
Yeah, my name is Mike Kaplaniak. I live at 694 Broman Court, 15-year resident of West Lincoln in Casterville. And I want to speak on the Sandra Gibson application for rezoning. Okay, I'm here tonight because I'm concerned that West Lincoln is not ready for a cannabis facility yet. We read frequently how our neighboring townships are struggling to amend their bylaws to manage valid resident complaints after the fact, how they have been ineffective in managing what is existing and now trying to manage any more coming in. We have also learnt through their experience that we cannot rely on Health Canada when issues arise. Numerous articles from townships all over Canada outline that fact. Last June, during a similar meeting, the residents of Casterville stood strong together and asked Council to protect the community, to educate and review and hopefully amend bylaws with regards to cannabis. I was encouraged as a resident when the Council started to discuss changes to the bylaws to better protect the residents and small communities of West Lincoln on January 14th, 2019. Council had two plans, Plan A and Plan B. To my understanding from that meeting, which I did attend, Option B was chosen to leave things the same until Township had a chance to review to see what changes could be made. To make sure you're in complete control of all the facets with intent to come back and fix the existing bylaws. An interim control bylaw was not put in place as the Township felt we were covered, but are we? From my understanding, no reviews or recommendations have been brought back to Council, so no changes have been made to my understanding. And now applications have come in, and I must ask, how can we be ready? For those of you who were here to listen to the residents of Casterville, you know how it affected us as a community, the emotions shared among neighbors, which I believe are like those that spoke with the wind turbines. I am concerned because I believe there are still a lot of questions surrounding cannabis facilities. Many comparisons to agricultural have been made, which I find problematic and untrue. A simple example is the current setback for cannabis production of 150 meters, yet if I was to construct a hog barn, I would have a 539 meter setback required. How can there be such a vast difference? Should the constant odor emitted from cannabis facilities not warrant greater setbacks? We know smelling cannabis growing and production is an ongoing 24/7, whereas chicken farms and cattle farms do not emit smell like this all the time. And yet, because of smell, they are subject to bylaws that control when and how they can turn manure, clean the coops, etc. And thanks to these controls, I am only subject to the smells of my neighboring farms a few times a year, not 24/7. If you compare it to agriculture or plant-based growing, can you tell me of any other plant-based facilities, farmlands, so wheat, tomatoes, peppers, anything that's grown that has the same, that compares to cannabis growing? And like communities right here in our region, Pelham, Grimsby, and more, we know that residents are not happy, that many claim their quality of life has been drastically affected. Residents of West Lincoln should not be led to believe there are no issues. We should be assured by our council that they have taken all the possible avenues to ensure that they will understand all the ongoing problems across the region and that we are prepared should any of these problems arise here. So why should we be ready to dip our toes into this right now? What is the facility really bringing to this community? An example that concerns me is there's a house on South Chippewa Road. They have 40 plants, or somewhere around there, looks like over 40 plants, growing outside in full view. And this is the second year in a row. I know complaints were made last year. The owner took down the plastic off the greenhouse, but never got rid of the plants. He actually managed to harvest his crop, and now he's back at it again. The plants are growing in full view from South Chippewa Road. So if the township cannot control something like that, how are we going to control a bigger facility? The people in this community have been here before, as we know, with the wind turbine. So I want you to know tonight that because there are not many seats filled here, it is a topic of concern and absolutely discussed at the ballpark, at barbecues among neighbors. Unfortunately, when I speak to residents about attending the council meetings, they have lost confidence and many say there's no point, they just do what they want. I'd love to see this response change. I'd like to believe that you were listening. I'd like to know residents in this area let you know that residents in this area do care. In closing, I'll ask council to hold back on approving this facility until we are ready and better bylaws are put in place to protect the residents of our beautiful rural township. I ask that you complete the bylaw review as promised, and please bring residents back in for input. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The clerk would like a copy of that.
Yes, for sure.
If we could. I'm going to ask one more time. Are there any members of the public who also wish to get comments on any of the items in the agenda? Please come forward, state your name. This is the time for making comment, entering it into the record.
My name is Dorothy Henderson. I live at 858 Casterville Road in Casterville. You might ask why I would be here speaking about a microcultivation facility. I'm here because the people in West Lincoln at Concession 5 are my neighbors. What happens to them happens to all of us one way or the other. And I will beat that old drum again and say that I think that these facilities belong on industrial zone land. Peter Gross, who practices municipal planning and development law, points out that while the act of growing plants suggests an agricultural use, the same license can also be used for processing, selling, and shipping marijuana, all of which points to an industrial use. In other parts of Canada, it's been designated that the best location for cannabis production is on property that's industrial. Cannabis corporation CEOs refer to cannabis production and processing as an industry. Even Councillor Cody called it an industry in the Niagara This Week article when suggesting that this microcultivation site would be a good opportunity to dip their toes in the cannabis industry. It seems that the rural residents of Concession 5 Road, whose toes already have been dipped and stomped by the installation of wind turbines they didn't want, now are to be the toe-dipping guinea pigs for the introduction of cannabis in West Lincoln. The Gibson family may think that their rural neighbors should be thankful for bringing the cannabis industry to their neighborhood, but in reality, their close and not so close neighbors don't want it. They bought and built their homes in this rural area to avoid the impact of the kind of environment industry creates. Cannabis production and processing facilities do not belong in rural settlement areas. They do, however, belong on industrial zone land. West Lincoln Township has 100 hectares of industrial zone land on Industrial Park Road in Smithville. A facility built on industrial zone land provides economic employment opportunities, does not interfere or diminish rural character or residential life, and provides an eco-friendly site while protecting natural resources. And I think maybe council should invest in some really big-time signs advertising industrial zone lands on Industrial Park Road in Smithville, saying that it's available for cannabis production and processing facilities, because then everyone can be happy because it's on a space that nobody's going to be aggravated with. I want to talk for a moment on the site that this is proposed at. The initial site was to be 10,000 square feet, has been reduced to 5,100 square feet, situated on the 19.2 hectares of land. The Red Hill Cannabis Facility on Green Mountain Road in Hamilton is proposing a development in 3 stages, including a 10,000 square foot building in the first phase, eventually expanding to 35,000 square feet. Obviously, based on the reading, that the Gibsons own this site, but who's the license holder for the facility? Who holds the license? In the application process, CALFA law, in the Ultimate Guide to Microcultivation Licensing 2019, says that the applicant will have to indicate whether the corporation applying for the license owns the site or have the owner of the site complete a site owner consent form. A sole proprietor is going to have to pay 39-point-something% taxes. If you're incorporated, you save 24 some odd percent. It's 13.9 for small business. So if the license holder is a cannabis corporation such as Canopy Growth, Aurora Cannabis, or Afria, the risk of a buyout is greater, as they would likely be financing the endeavor. If the Gibsons have incorporated, the risk of future planning to sell or expand is viable. Further, Council law states that when a business is incorporated, there is a greater flexibility with respect to planning for the future, as ownership is easily transferable and there is the opportunity to bring in several partners, shareholders, and investors. So I think, like, if we're looking at the future, what plans do the Gibsons have for this site? To sell the property to a large cannabis corporation such as Canopy Growth once they've earned enough capital to make the endeavor to pay off for them? Or to expand the business to resemble the Red Hill Cannabis to 35,000 square feet once approval is obtained? So to go then from a micro cannabis licensing to a standard licensing. They certainly have the property to do that. I think that if either of those scenarios play out, it would be catastrophic, obviously, for the residents of Concession 5 Road, as well, I think, anyone in West Lincoln Township, because what we know is that these cannabis corporations and cannabis producers are primarily interested in capital gain and the well-being of shareholders, not the quality of life of residents. And how do we know that? Look over at Pelham. There's the prime example for that. Economic prosperity. One of the reasons why we should allow cannabis facilities in West Lincoln is because it provides for employment opportunities and economic advantage. Well, this is a mom and pop business which will employ Mr. Gibson, his wife and daughter with an additional 2 to 3 employees for 10 days a month, and it's hardly an economic boon for the township and certainly supplies limited employment opportunities to others besides their family. So I think that is a bit of a stretch to use as some kind of support for the facility. The other thing is the state-of-the-art building described in Landex says that it's going to be a completely enclosed warehouse where there will be absolutely no emission of odor. And I find this really, really hard to believe that this one facility is going to do what no other facility has been able to do. So the state-of-the-art facility that's being planned with Red Hill Cannabis right now states that the building system minimizes light and odor, not eliminate, minimizes it. And I really believe that that's what this outfit's going to do as well. So the cannabis promoters trying to justify cannabis odor make the ever so popular and completely irrelevant comparison between the occasional odor of manure to the 24/7, 365-day odor of cannabis production. And so I don't have any faith that the proposed facility will eliminate odor for residents. Now, Dave Gibson said in the Niagara, he was reported saying that they would still be at the mercy of Health Canada and its ongoing inspections. Insufficient monitoring by Health Canada as a regulatory agency invites exploitation by cannabis producers in both micro and standard production facilities. The most recent example is the Pelham Can Trust debacle, where employees were told to install walls to hide the growing of illegal cannabis. Health Canada supposedly did an inspection in November of 2018 and found nothing. There were 5 unlicensed rooms, and it was only when employees blew the whistle that Health Canada acted. The illegal cannabis was also sold and shipped out of the country. If a big outfit like CanTrust can pull the wool over Health Canada, inspectors, any grower can and will get away with it. And I doubt that Mr. Gibson will have much to worry about being at the mercy of Health Canada, based on what we know of Health Canada's inability to monitor what's going on. We know that the residents having complaints about these facilities don't get any results. Dean Allison, West Niagara MP, said it's up to Health Canada to regulate and enforce its regulations, but not much of that happens. And of course, there will be an impact on the residents and residential life, and it would be naive to suggest otherwise. With chain link fencing, nighttime security lighting, motion detection, truck traffic, emissions from this industrial facility, and the very real possibility of expansion. And systems theory states that change in one part of a system will affect change in all of the other parts. It's simple to understand. And so in conclusion, I understand that the Gibsons' entrepreneurial endeavors and the desire for capital gain, I understand that. People want to make money. But I also fully understand that rural residents did not choose to have industry in their neighborhood and fiercely want to maintain the rural character of their neighborhood. What I don't understand is how the pursuit of capital gain in the cannabis industry is more important than the quality of life for an entire community. And that's written right on the bottom of our, West Lincoln thing about excellence in quality of life. Well, do we decide for whom that applies? Well, not over here, but maybe over here. The application for microcultivation facilities should be denied. The production and processing of cannabis is an industrial activity and should take place on industrial zone land. The risk that this facility will graduate from a microcultivation facility to a much larger standard facility is too great, and the disruption it would cause with non-pollutants is unacceptable. Commercial marijuana production and processing facilities are not compatible with rural neighborhood character. They also endanger the safety of rural residents and eco-functioning. Due to the potentially harmful social and environmental impacts, zoning of cannabis operations in rural residential areas is irresponsible and should be limited to commercial or industrial zones only. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the clerk, could she have a copy of your presentation? And
Is that for you? Oh, sorry.
thank you very much. I'm going to ask one more time, are there any other members of the public wishing to address any of the items of the agenda at this time in the public portion of this meeting? Seeing none, then I'm going to come back to the presentation. We have a second presentation. Megan McGlashan, Senior Research Associate in Environics. At this point, for the sake of introduction, I'm going to pass the mic over to the CAO to make a brief introduction and then hand the floor to Megan.
Thank you, Your Worship. So just before Ms. McGlashan presents the work done by Environics Research, I want to provide some comments to contextualize both the survey results as well as the current understanding of the province's governance review process. The commissioning of the survey was done by Niagara's 13 CAOs, and that was under the request or the direction of the 12 mayors and the regional chair. And it really does represent a really good partnership between all of our communities. The goal of the survey was to ensure the interests and opinions of the residents can be shared with the provincial government, and the survey focused on gathering the residents' views on the current governance structure, the satisfaction with local and regional services, as well as value for money. And through the survey, the 12 municipalities in partnership with the region have gained a better understanding of how Niagara's residents feel about the current two-tier structure. And doing statistically valid public research, like the kind Ms. McGlashan will be sharing with us in a few moments, help us determine the broader view of the community without the influence of special interests. And you may get inquiries about timing of this research, as well as the current understanding of the status of the government review process. And so while the official consultation phase of that the province conducted has concluded, there are indications from the ministry that they're continuing to want to hear feedback from the interested parties. And at this point, no decisions have certainly been made, and they're still keen to hear about the perspectives of their municipal partners. So they're considering all options, and the minister has mentioned on numerous opportunities that there is not a one-size-fits-all approach for government, and the results of the survey will help us inform future conversations between the region and the municipalities and the province. And having this type of unbiased, statistically valid research on hand for these discussions ensures that we're sharing the views of the residents with the decision makers at Queen's Park. So with that, I'm going to ask Ms. McGlashan from Environics Research to present the survey results that we have asked Environics to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that introduction. And thank you to the Council for allowing me the opportunity to present the findings of the survey. So before we jump into the findings, I want to talk a little bit on the topic of governance and how it isn't really a top-of-mind issue for residents. I imagine if you picked up a phone and you called a resident and you asked them, well, what do you think about the province's regional government review? They would say, sorry, what? So keeping that in mind, we worked with a committee of 13 CAOs to really develop a very deliberate approach so that we can ensure we achieved a representative portrait of Niagara Region residents' opinions on the topic of governance. First, we did that in our questionnaire design, in that we progressively engaged residents on the topic of governance. When we finally asked them about potential scenarios of the review, they were able to answer our questions reliably. The other way that we were deliberate in our approach was in our methodology. We used a telephone survey to randomly select residents to participate in the survey. And then we implemented quotas by age and gender to ensure that the distribution of participants matched that of the region, and then later weighed the data to sort of correct for any deviations. As is increasingly becoming important, we also implemented quotas for cell phone. So 25% of those who completed via their cell phones. In total, 832 residents were interviewed, and the average time to complete was 13 minutes. And because 832 allows us to ascribe a margin of error of 3.4%, we were pretty confident in the findings. Now to the findings. Firstly, the majority of residents, that three-quarters, feel that they are well served by the current two-tier municipal government. This is in comparison to only 1 in 5 who believe they're not well served. Note, for every question we asked, we allowed I don't have an opinion category. In this case, 4% of residents said they didn't hold an opinion. There was a dichotomy in the findings by age, in that young adults, so those between the ages of 18 and 34, the most likely to say they were well served by the two-tier government, whereas still a minority opinion, those aged 55 years and older were the most likely to say they were not well served. And there was a theme that sort of carried through all the findings in the survey. The majority of residents also feel that the current structure of elected officials is effective at representing their interests when making decisions for Niagara Region. And only a third, or just over a third, say that the structure of elected officials is ineffective. We asked a open-ended follow-up question of those who think it is effective to, why do you think it's effective? And they provided a variety of responses. The common responses included officials are connected to the local community, elected officials are responsive to needs, and elected officials are easy to contact. Another common response, which I'm guessing is not a surprise to anyone here, is that they think it's effective because they have no complaints, have had no problems. Finally, the top mention at 20% was a caveat. As I said, this is open-ended, meaning we didn't give instructive responses. We allowed them to say, and we just recorded what they had to say and then coded it later. The caveat was, yes, we think it's effective, but there's some room for improvement. Another question we included on the survey is value for tax dollars. So we commonly include this on surveys as a measure of satisfaction. We asked this both of local municipality as well as for the region of Niagara. And in both cases, the majority of residents say that they receive good value for their tax dollars. Note there's a slight difference between local municipality and regional level in terms of how much value residents derive for their taxes. This is actually pretty common in measures of satisfaction, whereas residents who they sort of feel a little more connected to their local municipality, so they give it a slightly higher rating. At this point in the survey, we started sort of getting into different aspects of governance that may be influenced or impacted by the province's review. And in this case, Niagara Region residents are sort of closely split between their preference for separate councillors elected at the lower tier and regional level versus one set of councillors elected for both. If you take into consideration the margin of error, really there's no difference between 46% and 44%. And of course, 1 in 10 don't have an opinion on this front. So before I get into sort of opinions on the potential scenarios, I wanted to speak a little bit more about our approach. So if you were to pick up the phone and call a resident and ask them, well, what do you hope would be the outcome of the province's review? They might pause because it's a pretty big question. And they might say to you, well, it depends. If you're talking about ease of access to services, I think scenario X would be better. But if you're talking about attracting business or retaining business, scenario Y might be better. But you know what? Ease of access to services is more important to me, so therefore I really hope that's the outcome. So sort of capture that nuance, that how it might depend, we asked the questions in regards to potential scenarios in the following way. We provided them with a list of 8 areas of responsibility. We firstly asked them to rate the importance of those areas of responsibility, and this is the outcome presented in this graph. And surprise, all of them are important, which means it's a good list for us to do the survey with. The ones that sort of rose to the top are efficient delivery of services and ease of access to services. We then provided residents with a description of potential scenarios, different municipal governance structures. This list on the slide is sort of the script that we used, but briefly we provided them with a description of current structure, or the 2-tier model now in place now in Niagara region, partial amalgamation of a few municipalities into one municipality, and finally a total amalgamation of all municipalities currently within Niagara region. We then asked them which of those 3 municipal models would best deliver on each of those areas, 8 areas of responsibility. And the results are presented on this graph. Just to make it clear, the green shows a proportion of residents who selected current structure. Blue is the proportion of residents who selected partial amalgamation, and purple is the proportion of residents who selected total amalgamation. And of course, gray is don't know. So majority of residents express a preference for the current structure when considering delivering a strong sense of community and providing ease of access to councillors. Otherwise, the largest proportion across area of responsibilities is the current structure. Now, I believe there is a detailed report that was shared with you. I really encourage you to take a look at it, because we did do other analysis, one of which is, when does it never depend? How often did residents never select each of the scenarios? In the case of current structure, just over a third of the time, 38% of the time, residents never selected current structure, but that's in comparison to just under half, or 45%, never selecting partial amalgamation, and half, or 50%, never selecting total amalgamation. So this sort of indicates that there is a preference for the current structure. Finally, we asked residents what they imagine if their municipality, their local municipality, was reorganized to make it larger, whether it would result in an improvement or a decline in the quality of service delivered to residents of that municipality. And again, residents were pretty closely split in expectations of the quality of service delivered if their local municipality became part of a larger municipal structure. But the larger proportion, or just under half, 48%, said they would believe it would result in a decline. So taken all together, the survey findings indicate that residents generally express confidence in the current structure. There is small pockets of appetite or limited appetite for some change, but given that amalgamation really has diffused support, and given that the larger proportion of residents believe that a larger government will result in decline in service, the findings of the survey suggest that any changes that would negatively impact service delivery, and another question we asked was whether or not the residents would be okay with paying more taxes to deliver services as part of a larger municipality. And as you, I guess not a surprise, the majority said they wouldn't be okay with it. Together, this would suggest resistance to change would be vocalized should amalgamation be imposed throughout the region. Thank you again for the opportunity to present the findings. I welcome any questions.
Great. Thank you so much. A lot of information there. I've heard it a few times. It still spins. Any councillors wishing to weigh in on that? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor.
Yes,
Sorry,
good
Councillor Trumpet.
presentation. I guess some comments for it. Thank you for your presentation, Mrs. McGlashan. So the way it's coming off is that everybody's happy with what the levels are right now. Is that correct? Sort of, give or take.
So,
According to your presentation, that's what I've got in the 5 minutes here.
majority of residents feel that they're being well served. They think the current structure of elected officials is effective. But there is some evidence for an appetite for change, but given the current confidence they have in the current system, it would suggest that that's directed towards the current structure as opposed to different models for municipal government.
Either, so your presentation was more or less on an amalgamation instead of a tier system, is what the words that we're getting out there. Is that what sort of the survey went on, or is it more of a tier system and amalgamation, or was it everything all in one?
So when it came to, so that one option, the partial amalgamation, we're specifically vague about that because there's so many opportunities, so many different variations on what that could mean. We didn't want to overload participants. We wanted to ensure they could answer reliably. So our definition was just that there would be some change. We didn't say how the change would occur.
Now, maybe this is not to you, Mr. McGlashan, maybe it's directed to the Mayor or Madam CEO. I guess Mr. Clark is going to come down with some ruling relatively soon. Is there any timelines on this? A lot of people have been asking me. I know it's all up in the air. I don't know if Mr. McGlashan is the person to ask. Obviously the topic is here. I know how I feel on this. I'm not in support of our Premier's comments in Pelham. I don't think that how he's saying that 120 politicians is ludicrous in our region. I think we all serve our constituents well, and I think that we're very accessible, and I hope we can continue to do that. So I'm not in support on how he's saying it's ludicrous. I just want that comment to be made. So,
Except that it was the Premier who said it, not your mayor.
did I say your mayor?
Yeah, you did.
Well, sorry.
You wouldn't hear me say that.
No, Mr. Mayor didn't say it. I said our Premier, my mistake, our Premier did say that in Pelham over last week, and how it's ludicrous of 120 politicians and, for 450,000 people. But I think it's warranted that, we've been doing a good job, and obviously councillors that have been serving the community for a long time have been doing a good job. And to throw it all away, it really hurts the constituent. That service level of calling your counselor is going to be gone. You're going to deal with an automated machine, and good luck for someone to get back to you. So again, to my question, I guess Minister Clark's looking into it. I don't know the timelines. I'm hearing now it's going to be, they're probably going to drop the ball on us just before election. So where do we stand?
I'm going to defer at this point just to
You
the
guys are
CAO.
deferring to each other there for a second, so.
Or did you point to me?
I would always let you answer the question first. We're keeping a really close watch on this file, obviously, and because it is a really big importance to lots of residents, it's to lots of the administration and such. So what we're understanding is that, there had been talk, and the original timeline was to potentially have an announcement next week. Anyway, that's no longer on, and I think we're looking closer to the end of the year, if any, and we'll just continue to keep our ear to the pavement to figure out what's happening. But there is good opportunities for communication. Our municipality will be meeting with the Minister of Municipal Affairs at AMO next week, and we will continue to share our thoughts that we've been gathering together, and we'll also be probably sharing this information as well.
Okay. Well, thank you, Madam CAO. I just hope at least my comments are spread to the upper levels. I know you and yourself and the mayor are going there. I don't know how the mayor feels, but I'm quite sure he likes our service level one-on-one, because I've dealt with him for 5 years now. So I hope my comments get there, and the way I feel, I'm going to speak for all the council, but that's how I feel, and I'm happy with the current structure. I think we've been productive. Like I said, there's been councillor beside me who's been sitting in that structure for many years, and I think it helps the constituents, and I feel that it's going to really hurt West Lincoln as being the far municipality out of the core municipality. That person that's on gravel road and concession 2 or 3, good luck. We won't be able to have someone come to their house anymore. So, thank you.
Councillor Rayner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too hope that the Premier was in Niagara, as he said on the TV last week quite frequently, because he likes coming down here. I think maybe because the alcoholic beverages are available. They might not be $1 a piece either, I don't know, but I think they're probably free for him. But anyways, the point being that Niagara is unique in itself. The 12 municipalities are all different. This one is by far the largest, and it's agriculture. And being agriculture, it's more rural. There's more contact with councillors and the people who live out in the farms. And generally speaking, the people who represent the people out here have experience in farms, and they can relate to the people. I know it's been a big asset in my re-election all the time, is the fact that my background is agriculture, and I can relate to the people very, very well, and they understand that. If we change the structure and somebody's going to do it from Welland or St. Catharines, I doubt very much if there'll be much interest in the agricultural community anymore, as everything is going urban, as we know with the expansion of the projects that are going on here in the township and the loss of agricultural land. So things will not be in favor of rural areas, so I hope they recognize the fact that especially West Lincoln is a lot different. And the fact that Niagara is so much different, and the Premier likes coming down here, it's different for a reason. We're not structured like Toronto. And I know he wanted to cut Toronto in half with the councillors, and he did, but he saved multi-millions of dollars. The salaries that we get as councillors in the region of Niagara is nothing compared to the savings he made in Toronto. So if it's for a financial reason to eliminate those numbers, it doesn't make any sense at all. So that part of the logic is what he tries to bring people. I'm saving money based on the salaries of councillors in the region of Niagara. You're not going to be saving that much money, but you're certainly going to create a lot of heartache to the residents who live here, because their method and means of communications with the government to resolve a lot of their issues will be gone. And that in itself is worth a lot that you won't appreciate until it's gone. And I just hope that doesn't happen.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors? I just wanted to just reiterate, we don't have a crystal ball on the actual day of an announcement and or anything. They've kept their cards close with respect to those items and what their decisions are. We have to take them at their word that they are open-minded and they're listening. So we go on that, and we keep making presentations, and we keep meeting on this, and you'll see a little bit more of that later on in the agenda. But, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation and the download of information. At this time, we have regional councillors' remarks. So at this time, I'd like to count Regional Councillor Albert Witteveen make remarks, hopefully brief, because we still have a lot of agenda after him. I know
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. That was my objective this evening. I wanted to show my presence and understood the full agenda that you had this evening. So just a couple of quick updates this evening. Received some concerns with some excessive speeding in Casterville. Reached out to Staff Sergeant Rom, and he is addressing some of those concerns with the excessive speed through Casterville. So to the two councillors there, I want you to know that I'm looking after your end of town also. Met with our Commissioner of Community Service, Adrian Jugli, and our staff pertaining to what we discussed last month on the fort through their funding through the Niagara Prosperity Initiative. We talked about future support for the fort and how to make the organization more sustainable in our community. So regional staff, we're going to reach out to the director, Beth Shaw, of Fort, to assist her in finding more sustainable funding, and to also reach out in our community to help in achieving that result and keeping the Smithville Center open for our youth. A highlight, Public Works. We're upgrading our recycling sorting. We're making another $500,000 investment in this to achieve higher value of recyclable products, so it's easier to sell. The market's in a bit of a tough spot, so this will also help increase some of the flow of the materials, and our return on investment's 2.5 years, which is, I think, it's a great investment. Through our planning meeting, we had a presentation by General Manager Brian Purdy from the Niagara Gateway Information Center. Kind of gave us a quick overview on the estimated 2.7 million visitors at this center, and the number of cars going down that QE is about 44 million. So kind of interesting, some statistical information what comes into our region. Our region supports this initiative, but I believe that there's some opportunity here for West Lincoln to make some things known towards what's available in industrial properties, but also some tourism opportunities from that center and what's available here in West Niagara. Concerns mostly is when the highway's busy. Most people use Highway 20 as an alternate, but if we could capture some of those people traveling through our community, that would be beneficial to us. So that was my my condensed report for this evening, and other than myself, Councillor Ganan, and William Riley, we attended the Legion pig roast on Saturday, so that was well attended, and glad to be there on behalf of the municipality also. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you followed the presentation we just had, because I was wondering if you could enlighten us a little bit on the region's decision to add seats to the MPCA solely for the purpose of keeping elected officials sitting on the board. Like, I find it as a incredibly irresponsible decision. Why we just talked about how we're staring in the face of amalgamation because the provincial government thinks we're already over-governed, and then we vote to keep elected officials on the MPCA, which is a slap in the face to the municipalities, which overwhelmingly decided we wanted citizen representatives on the board. So just as a power...
I'm going to do a quick comment on my perspective of the conversation was that each municipality would select an individual from their community. Being that the region funds the NPCA, it was in our interest to have we'll say a conduit of information. What number we chose, we felt that 3 councillors would be sufficient if one couldn't be there to be that conduit. I believe it's around a $10+ million budget. It was just to bring that information back to council, validate. It was the go-between. So that's where, in my decision-making, that's where we needed the 3 councillors, whether it was 1, 2, or 3. 3 was kind of I guess a good number, but it allowed each municipality to select an individual that was non-elected to sit on that. So to me, should have been 18, should have been 16. It was a real kind of a tough decision, but felt that 3 could bring that information back and forth to the region at budget time, concerns, explain, discussions, so that I would believe, Councillor Cody, that would be the rationale.
And it was 3 that just the region decided they were going to put in place. There was no voting, or
yes, there
the
was.
municipalities had no say over who was going to step in.
So how it was done was those that were interested into sitting on that committee basically let their name be known, and through that, the rest of the regional council voted for 3 individuals. So I believe there was at least 6 or 7 that put their name forward, and 3 were selected from the council.
Okay. So I thought it was rather poorly timed.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. Oh, did you? Okay, Councillor Trombetta.
Real quick, this one is on a different note. We talked last time about garbage. The collection, the mess that's been out there. Where are we, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Councilor Winnebeen, the RFP? I guess the region was going to look at getting somebody new to actually pick up our garbage properly. Where are we with that?
Well, the process is, at this present time, the new RFP is out there. The new carrier will be selected, I believe it was later this month. It will be known, so make sure they meet all the criteria. So it was still, the timeline was late August, early September, when we will find out the new, who's awarded the contract for the next 7-year contract.
So, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor, when's their existing contract end?
2020, spring, April.
So we gotta deal with the the crappy garbage pickup till 2020?
Pretty much, yes.
Oh, great. Well, at least I'll let the residents know, because I'm still getting calls on a weekly basis.
Want an honest answer? I'll give you.
No, that's an honest
what it
answer. I can
is.
give it back to them. It is what it is, right? So, yeah, yeah, so, all right.
Definitely is a challenge. Thank you.
I'm quite sure for you as well, yeah.
Okay. Councillor Rayner.
You did ask me to keep it short, didn't you?
You did a
He did
fantastic job,
specifically.
but
Sorry.
Councillor Trombetta just raised a good question. Normally, if we have garbage that's in the ditches in our township, we have our public works people, we make the call and they come up and get it. But because we now know that a lot of this garbage is probably what the region failed to pick up and it's all over the place, so should we not now call the region? We do have region trucks like on Yonge Street and 30 Road, so now the region can come out at their expense to pick the garbage up, since they're the one who caused this mess in the first place. And why should we incorporate the tax to our public works people of this township when it's a regional problem that's filling the ditches until this problem is resolved in April of 2020?
Well, that's a good question. I'm going to defer to the regional councillor because it's his time slot.
My understanding is, as a past councillor, we as township picked up that, but yes, definitely on our own roads, we could call the region if there's garbage or illegal dumping on regional roads. Regional staff will pick that up. It's their jurisdiction.
But that's always been, Councillor.
So,
What
so
I mean,
what has
I'm
been
talking
is
about
still is.
The garbage that's now being not picked up and ends up in the ditches is because it's being not picked up by the regional trucking. It doesn't matter if it's a regional road or a municipal road, that garbage is there because of the failure of the region system to take the garbage.
Well, I don't want to engage and argue with you, Councillor Rayner, but my understanding is that if your collection is missed today, they would usually are back tomorrow morning to start at on your location to pick that up. Yeah. So as a homeowner, you can maybe, I don't know why it's in the garbage, in the ditch, because it should be still on the roadside by your driveway for collection purposes.
We deal with complaints as they happen.
And they have
right?
a number that there's a number that you can reach and file. If we're missed and they didn't come the next day, there's a number that they will, and the service provider will come and rectify the issue. And I have done that.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Councillor Woodavine, I took it the wrong way, Mr. Mayor, when he said miss, because I take my garbage out, and when he finishes and he leaves, I take what's remaining back to my house.
Yeah.
And then next week, I take that back out, and then he takes it. So the missed meaning he forgot to take the other half that he was looking at in the pile, and he was coming back tomorrow and get it, or missed meaning he didn't do anything with that day, and he's coming back to pick the whole thing up the next day. Because I've had a partial garbage pickup many times.
Yeah. Okay. And Councillor Woodavine has accurately pointed out there is a number that you can call. The region will do their best to accommodate what's their responsibility. Yep. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Woodavine, for your comments. At this time, we have the confirmation of minutes. Council minutes regular. Councillor Trombetta, you have this resolution.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Rayner that the minutes of the open session portion of the July 15th regular council meeting be accepted, and that the confidential minutes relating to the closed session portion of July 15, 2019 regular council meeting be accepted, and that the minutes remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in the Municipal Act.
Councillors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Trombetta, seconded by Councillor Rayner. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. We have minutes of the public meetings under the Planning Act. Councillor Cody, you have that resolution.
I do. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Reiner. That the minutes of the public meeting held on July 15th, 2019 under Section 17 and 34 of the Planning Act with respect to A, official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, James and Joanne Ellis, file number 1701-001-19 and 1601-011-19. And B, zoning bylaw amendment, Shelley Braddock, file number 1601-00819.
Councillors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Cody, seconded by Councillor Rayner. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that is carried. Next, we have the public meeting on July 15th for the naming of the street for crossing on the 20 South Plan of Condominium. Councillor Ganane, you have that resolution.
I do. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Cody that the minutes of the public meeting held on July 15, 2019, with respect to the naming of the street in the crossing on the 20 South Plan of Condominium be accepted.
Councillors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Ganane, seconded by Councillor Cody, that the minutes, oh, you read that. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? And that's carried. Meeting's going to be long enough. We have communications from Nicholas Bowden, and Councillor Rayner, you have the resolution.
Mr. Mayor, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Cody that the letters of resignation received on July 24, 2019 from Mr. Nicholas Bowden from the West Lincoln Public Library Board, effective August 2, 2019, and from the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee, effective August 8, 2019, be received with regrets.
Councillors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Rayner, seconded by Councillor Cody. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Communication from Mark Gainham. Councillor Trombetta, you have a resolution.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Rayner, that the email received by Mark Gainham, stepson of the executor of Jim Green, on July 23, 2019, requesting the township to pay for the cost of Mr. Jim Green's interment luncheon in recognition with his many years serving as a town crier. Being a board member on various township committee and community groups and community advocate to be received, and that the township donate $1,000 from its corporate promotions account 1-02025025151550 to be used specifically to pay for the cost of Mr. Jim's Green intermittent luncheon proposed to be held on in early October 2019 at the Smithfield Legion.
Councillors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Trombetta, seconded by Councillor Rayner. Any comments or questions? Councillor Trombetta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a good donation. Mr. Jim Green was a crier here for many years. You know, the luncheon at the Legion will be a good honor in his memory. He served the community well. I just feeling that maybe some politicians, mayors, and stuff should be invited who work with them on a more longer basis than I have, because he has been here for such, or ex-staff that's no longer with the corporation that can be sent out. Carolyn, stuff like that. I just don't know what the proceeds, which I'm quite sure our CAO is going to take care of that. I'm quite sure she's thinking of everybody, but if you want to comment on that, Madam CAO.
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mayor Billsma, to Councillor Trombetta. I don't think our intent is to organize the event, but I will certainly make sure we pass those comments along.
Okay. Yeah, just like if anybody wants to attend because they thought it's warranted, it's going to be out there to the public or whatever.
Yeah. Councillor Rayner.
Thank you. Yes, I think this is the right thing to do. Being the old councillor around the table here, Mr. Green has come in a few times in my presence over the years, mostly with Councillor Trombetta's mother as mayor, and a lot of memories over the years. And this would be a nice thing for the township to do in his honor. Thank you.
Any others? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. At this time, I would like to enter a few comments into the record. On July 27th, and I'll be brief as briefly as I can, I had an opportunity to do 2 concurrent events. The first thing I did was go to the grand opening of Post Time. They do fencing and gates and the like. They had a grand opening of their new facility on the corner of Elko Road and Canberra Road. If anybody's familiar with it, it's the old auction house, and it's the Wedge. And they've moved their facilities there, and they had an opportunity to do a fence cutting ceremony, and it was well attended, and there's a lot of community support and family support, and it was a wonderful opportunity to provide a home for a new business that employs, I think the number was, correct, I'll be corrected, but I think it was 30 employees. At the same time, the Chamber of Commerce, West Lincoln Chamber of Commerce, was hosting their community barbecue. So I immediately left the first engagement, went to the second engagement, and was able to enjoy on the grounds in the parking lot of our community center the Chamber barbecue, and there were a lot of attendees. There were a lot of vendors. There were some of the public works vehicles in attendance, fire apparatus, and it was well attended. It was a very, very warm day, but that didn't keep the crowds away, and there was a lot of live music, and so that too was a very enjoyable event, and I thank the West Lincoln Chamber for hosting that barbecue. On July 30, I had the opportunity to visit Brock. They are forming a new grand entrance to the Brock University. It's called the Link, and I had an opportunity to witness. It's almost complete, and so we were able to safely navigate their what is going to be quite a community entrance to Brock University. If you would like to find out more about that, ask me later. But it's quite the entrance, and there's a lot of opportunities for the residents of West Lincoln, but all of the Niagara region, to be able to access resources in Brock at in a finer and more convenient way. I had also an opportunity, and this kind of dovetails nicely with what we were discussing earlier about concerns that the Niagara region mayors have. And there was a mayor's breakfast, which was also attended by the regional chair on August the 6th, an opportunity for us to have a bit of a casual roundtable talk about what our concerns are, and with respect to the governance review that's happening in the Niagara region, to see if we can find some talking points. Most of the mayors are attending the Ymca conference, which I'll get to just shortly, and so it was an opportunity for us to perhaps get some talking points together and some strategy. Generally speaking, the mayors are of the similar opinion to my own, that the current system with 12 municipalities in the one region is the best for the residents of Niagara, seeing as how each community recognizes itself as very unique in the context of the Niagara region. And so from Fort Erie to Niagara and the Lake, Grimsby and Waynfleet and West Lincoln, we all basically love our communities, and we love to see them stay intact. And so we were looking at some political strategies, knowing full well that our CAOs had already met, and we're looking at service delivery efficiencies. And so there's basically a dovetail that's happening, and I just wanted to express that we've been meeting with respect to that. I'd like to speak just briefly about AMO is next week. Councillor Cody, Councillor Riley, myself, Regional Councillor Witteveen, and Madam CAO are all going to be attending in Ottawa. I don't think I forgot anybody, but we're sending 5. So that's quite a delegation from West Lincoln. The staff has arranged to have delegations with many ministers, cabinet ministers in the provincial government, and so we see this as a great opportunity. Some of the things that we're promoting are funding, the continued support for funding for our municipality, especially with I think it's OSIP.
The Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund.
There we go, that's the one, sorry. And then we're going to continue to plug the North-South Crossing, which is good for our municipality, as well as West Lincoln Memorial Hospital. So some of our delegations we're going to do alongside the municipalities of Grimsby and Lincoln, because we have some shared interest in some of those projects. And so I'm looking forward to attending this, and I'm sure the other members are as well. And the last thing that I want to get on the record, because we will not be meeting again before it happens, and that is the West Niagara Fair. And we're in fair season, and it's just incredible how quickly that comes upon us. And I think that it's a great opportunity again to showcase all that's good about West Lincoln and the rest of West Niagara. So I just want to highlight at this point that attend vigorously and get your kids to and yourself to enter some of those crafts and vegetable produce categories. All right, those are my comments for today. At this time, we're going to move on. There are no reports of committee. Reconsideration and motion to rescind are there. So we're moving to consent agenda items. All items listed below are considered to be routine and non-controversial and approved by one resolution. There are 15 of them. There will be no separate discussion unless a council member pulls it, in which case the item will be removed and the rest and be considered immediately following. So I'm going to read this list quickly. Consent agenda items: 1, multi-municipal turbine working group minutes. West Lincoln Age Friendly Advisory Committee minutes. Number 3, Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee minutes. 4, West Lincoln Public Library Board minutes. 5, technical report design on Louis and Gwen Zeldenrust. 6 is technical report for Dunlow Developments. 7 is a technical report proposed street name for block, I'm going to say block 47. 8 is the information report, building department annual budget report. 9 is the fire monthly update. 10 is the information report, budget status report. 11 is the development charge reserve funds. And 12 is the Culver Street sidewalk and crosswalks. 13 is recommendation report, block 47, Rosemont Homes. And 14 is recommendation report, authority to sign amendment to existing agreement with company CGIS. And 15 is amendment to budget, purchase new building main office vehicle. Any items wishing to be pulled? Councillor Rayner.
6 and 13, please.
6 and 13 will be pulled. On the balance, are all those in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Cody, you have the resolution.
I do.
My apologies.
No worries. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Reiner. That council hereby approve the following consent agenda items. Item 1 through 12, not 6, be hereby received for information, and items 14 and 15 and are hereby received, and that the recommendations contained therein be adopted.
You heard the resolution. And there are no comments. All those in favor? And that's carried. Madam Clerk, do you have number 6? Just getting that ready. Send it that way, they can sign it. Councillor Rayner, if you could move that. Are you going to second that? So moved by Councillor Rayner, seconded by Councillor Trombetta. Councillor Rayner, did you have a question on that? You may speak to it at this time.
All right, you can tie number 6 and number 15 together.
Oh, okay. You put your mic on and speak to them?
Yeah, I have it. They're both together.
Yep.
Okay, I just want to read the mission statement that the Township of West Lincoln has, and then I'll make my comment. The mission statement reads, the Township of West Lincoln will be a community that values our heritage, preserves our environmental and natural resources, fosters entrepreneurial spirit, and provides excellent quality of life. The natural resources referred to in this in the Township of West Lincoln is agriculture, and the IBI groups, with their application for subdivision, destroys the mission statement. So they're both in conflict with each other, and I cannot support the IBI group if I believe in the mission statement to be true and honest, because that takes away the effect of the mission statement when we're not preserving our natural resources, when we're putting massive subdivisions in on beautiful agricultural land. That goes against the mission statement. I can't support it.
Okay,
Mr. Mayor?
yeah,
Mr. Treble.
Mr. Treble?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not to belabor the point or the meeting, but there are multiple mission statements within the context of the strategic plan. The councillor has chosen but one. There are a number of other missions in terms of growth and accommodating the needs of the community and providing services to meet the needs of the community and whatnot. And so 6 and 13 do meet the intent of the official plan and our local policy sets. Certainly we'll work on a new strategic plan, and council can have more input into that one with respect to his concerns. Just for the record as well, 13 is the former Dunnville spur line, so it hasn't been farmed in years.
Thank you for those comments. And you know what? Sometimes I hesitate, but I think I'm going to weigh in on this as well. Councillor Rayner, you often make this comment. And you're pretty consistent. You want to protect farmland. I think it should be stated. I know you're in the process of personally building a house, and this is not the first house you've built in West Lincoln. So I thought the one that you just moved from was the house that you built as well.
This is the only first one, the only one in my life. So you've heard faults in
Well, okay, but you've just built a house, so that technically makes you a developer as well.
It makes the place to work in order to utilize.
I'm just saying, everybody wants a house, and you want a house no less. And so the developers, consistent with our official plan, want to provide affordable housing to the residents of West Lincoln so that our community can grow. These are requests made to us by residents, by local businesses that are looking for employees to live close to their businesses. And we need to work with developers. I want to just weigh in, just to provide a bit of context. You have a place to live. You've just built one, and you've taken a chunk of land that was formerly agricultural land, and you've put your house on there, larger than the average lot size of the developments that we're on that you're speaking to today. They're very small, very responsible. A lot of people are going to have roofs over their heads as a result of these developments. And I don't want to specifically, I've got the floor, I don't want to specifically promote or these ones over all the other ones, or be critical necessarily of your desire to have a roof over your head. I'm just saying it at some level, you speak often on this, and I would just like to provide, some balance and context that what's good for the goose is good for the gander. It's good for Mike Rayner. It's good for the other members of the municipality. And I let a lot of this slide for many, 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 many times, and I've heard that often, and I just wanted to weigh in just this once as an opportunity to say, you know what, we're all residents of West Lincoln. You know less than the people that are going to buy these houses, and they're looking for a piece of sky as well. And just wanted to provide that comment. I'm going to go to Councillor Cody, and then I'll ask you for a comment to rebut if you like.
Just maybe to add to the mayor's comments, there's 7 individuals sitting on this council, and we were all quite happy with the fact that taxes went up lower in West Lincoln this year than all of the municipalities around us. We kept our tax increases lower than all the surrounding others. Without new homes and new families moving to West Lincoln, we will not be able to continue to do that. So we need development. We need more tax revenue in West Lincoln. Otherwise, it's just going to get more expensive to live here for all of the existing citizens.
And I don't know if you want to respond.
Comment to Councillor Cody's. That could continue then forever. Say that excuse that you development in order to offset. Unfortunately, what happens is agriculture is the loser in this because it always seems to be the agricultural land that they attack in order to justify the increase in taxes, the increase in development. And a lot of the prime agricultural land gets sacrificed before the worst. For example, the QEW all the way to St. Catharines is one of the best land, and it's all commercial practically all the way from Hamilton to St. Catharines. It used to be all orchards. In this situation, it's terrible. My situation, yes, I'm building, but I'm building on 100 acres. I've also had about 10 acres of that wasn't usable. I brought in 1,000 loads of topsoil and made it all usable, so I've gained on it. I haven't lost on my land. I've actually gained and still could put a house on it. But what developers do is they permanently destroy the land and all of it. They take 40 acres and they destroy all 40 acres. And you say, well, it's great because it helps our tax base and our growth. But what it ends up doing is dwindling the amount of agricultural land. It always seems to be agriculture that ends up getting hit. And yet we have the fall fairs. Look at Hamilton, for example. They had a big farm fest last month, but they've also had $1 billion in permits, and massive amount of farmland in Bimbrook is being destroyed, but they're bragging about agriculture. Well, a lot of those farms that they're telling people to go visit are probably going to be subdivisions in 5 years, so that's being very hypocritical. What they don't realize is agriculture is a source of life for everybody. It doesn't matter if it's meat, if it's fruit, if it's vegetables. It all comes from the ground. You destroy that ground, eventually, it's like deer. They have hunting in certain restricted areas because the deer population is too much. They're starving because there's too many animals for the amount of land. Population in the world is continuing to grow. You keep taking the agricultural land away, one day you'll get to the point where there's not enough land to support the people. It's not going to happen now. It's not going to happen 100 years from now. But it's the wrong direction to go. Beautiful agricultural land should be preserved. And I don't think people are waiting in tents, Mr. Mayor, that they have to have a roof over your head. I think it's just that people want to move and they want to change. But they shouldn't sacrifice the good land. For example, that land that you're talking about right now, which is just out opposite the Catholic school, that was a land swap in order to make that work. But that was beautiful land, and you swapped 3 sections of land in Wellandport or something for it. Well, that wasn't a fair deal because the agricultural land in Wellandport, it's not as good as the one there. Plus 3 sections don't work as well as one. So there was a raw deal for agriculture, but it was convenient because it was conveniently located for growth for the township. But it was also one of the best pieces of land that was sacrificed. So, I mean, I'm all for growth, but take the crappy land, take the brownfields, take things that are really not good for agriculture and can't be worked well and don't yield well. And then maybe 20, 50 years from now, let's look at maybe taking the next worst land. But let's not always take the best land. That's what bothers me.
Your comments are fair, and they're in the record. Councillor Trombetta.
Just curiosity, Mr. Mayor, when was that land put in the urban boundary expansion through you to Mr. Trouble? Is this way? This was planned to develop a long time ago, right?
The land near the Greek Community Hall, that land was brought into the urban boundary by the OMB, it was called at the time, LPAT now, in 2015.
It was the swap.
Yeah, it's part of the swap. Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to say, just a little pushback. That's all. Anyways, we have the two before us. Both of them are moved by Councillor Rayner, seconded by Councillor Trombetta. I'm going to deal with these together because I don't think we've made our comments on there. All those in favor? And that's carried. Moving right along. I'm sorry, yeah, my mistake. We have a deferred report on the Sandra Gibson file. As that deferred at the June 24, Councillor Trombetta has declared a conflict of interest with respect to this item, as he lives in proximity to the proposed cannabis production facility, which he has noted may affect his judgment with respect to the application. Councillor Trombetta has provided a written declaration of his conflict in this regard and will not be taking part in the discussion or voting with respect to this matter. Councillor Gannan, you have this resolution.
I do, thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Cody. One, that report PD-89-19 regarding Sandra Gibson application for rezoning, file number 1601-002-19, dated June 10th, 2019, be received. And 2, that Section 34, subsection 17 of the Planning Act apply, and that no further public meeting is required. And 3, that application for zoning bylaw amendment 1601-002-19 submitted by Stephen Bedford be approved.
Any comments or questions? Councillor Rayner.
Recorded vote, please, Mr. Mayor.
Recorded vote. Councillor Cody.
Yeah, I think it's important to clarify that what we're actually voting on tonight is a planning application. We are not voting on allowing or not allowing a micro grow operation. And the only facts or details we have in making our decision is whether or not this planning application meets our bylaws. And the fact of the matter is, it does meet our bylaws. We, as a council, don't have grounds to not approve this planning application, whether it makes us or the public happy or not. This is not it's about a grow operation, but it's not, the vote is not about a grow, it's a planning application. So I think we've had lots of people speak their opinions about the grow operation, and we understand that as a council, but what we're voting on is a planning application, and we only have the grounds of that planning application. And if we don't approve it, because they've met or exceeded our bylaws, LPAT's going to approve it. That's where we sit.
Well, he's making a comment. I don't know if there's anybody who would like to. Director Brian Trouble.
Mr. Mayor, I don't mean to belabor, but, and it's not completely directly in response, but something I need to get on the floor. We held a public meeting on this process many months ago now, and that public meeting was attended fairly well by a number of community members, and many of them spoke. We had new people speak tonight talking about new items and new issues, and that, if that in any way taints council's opinion and your vote, that means you should start the planning process over again. So be careful how you make your decision and what information you use to make the decision. I guess that's all I want to put on the table. Tonight's information that was provided really should be struck from the record. It was not provided in a fair public process.
Okay. Thank you for that. Councillor Rayner.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I believe Councillor Cody said this is just to approve the plan, but if the plan is approved, then it's a go-ahead to grow. There is no difference between the two. There is no distinction. It's the green light to do it, not just to approve the plan. Am I not correct? I do believe Councillor Cody was not correct in that statement. Am I right or am I wrong?
I'm not going to rule on the correctness of it,
Well,
but I do. Yeah, you're right, and I do understand it kind of the same way. So I'm going to go to Director of Planning, Brian Trouble.
Mr. Mayor, the item on the agenda tonight is the zoning bylaw amendment. The zoning bylaw amendment does refer to site plan control. That will come back before committee at a future date. So it's a condition that site plan control.
Right. Okay. Councillor Gannan.
Thank you. I think the people who are still here, who have been here for the evening, know what a conundrum this is. We have spent a great deal of time in the last 3 years trying to stave off having cannabis facilities, growing operations, et cetera, in our municipality. But I think what Councillor Cody was alluding to is the fact that we have, under the Planning Act, only planning issues that can help us to determine our choice on this. So even if it goes against what we personally believe, we need to make our decision based on planning. So when the policies, whether they're local or regional or provincial, have all been met, as it has been in this planning issue before us, then we are obligated to follow planning rules to make our decision. So for members sitting here, it's a huge conundrum. We want to support our residents. We want to keep on fighting. But in this particular case, this application meets all of the criteria that we set out. And so it really is a very difficult decision, not under planning. Under planning, it's very clear cut. But when we all live in West Lincoln, it becomes a very difficult decision for us to make. So, thank you.
I'm going to go to you final time. Yeah.
Thank you. I understand what Councillor Gannon is saying. She's got some good points, but I'm the one tonight who read the invocation. And part of the invocation states, and that's why I picked this one out of all the ones, always act in accordance with what is best for our community. So that's why I'll be voting the way I vote tonight, because I'm not looking at anything else but the community in which I live in. Thank you.
At this point, seeing no further discussion, I'm going to hand the floor to the clerk to take up the recorded vote. There we go.
Support.
Support.
Opposed? It's defeated.
I'm fine with that.
Moving on, we have a recommendation report, PD 124-19. Councillor Rayner, you have that resolution. It should be B, C, yeah.
Move by myself and second by Councillor Cody that the report PD-131-19 regarding the proposed street name crossings on the 27th of Juan Homes Limited filing for 2000-072-08 dated August 12, 2019 be received. Condos street legally described as lot 20, lots 56 and 57, south of the 20 District Plan NZ8 Township of West Lincoln, Regional Municipality of Niagara, being private drive by bylaw.
Sorry. Yeah. James and Joanne Ellis. Should have something C. I know. It should be 14C. There we go. No problem. There are a lot. I know.
Moved by myself and second by Councillor Cody. That report PD-124-19 regarding James and Joanne Ellis, application for the official plan amendment and application for rezoning, file number 1701-001-19. Official plan amendment, file number 1601-011-19. Zoning bylaw amendment dated August 12, 2019 be received, and that section 3417 of the Planning Act apply, and that no further public meeting is required. And that application for official plan amendment number 52, file number 1701-001-19, and a corresponding bylaw be approved and passed. And that the application for zoning bylaw amendment 1601-011-19 submitted by James and Joanne Ellis and Upper Canada Consulting and a corresponding bylaw be approved and passed. And that staff be authorized to circulate the notice of decision for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment with the corresponding 20-day appeal period.
Councillors, you've heard the resolution moved by Councillor Rayner, seconded by Councillor Cody. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. With your indulgence, we're going to recess this meeting for a little bit. Just bear with the councillors. We've been at this for 4 hours already, and we have a little bit of time, so I'm just going to take a 5-minute break.